All right, welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibe. It's Thursday. It's the 11th day of June 2020, and we welcome you to the program this morning. As we told you, we have community activist Yaya Marin Coleman that is on the line to give us an update on that proposed protest demonstration that was to take place. And we welcome you, sister.
Good morning, Belize. Good morning, Brother Nuri. Good morning, Belizeans. Thanks for the time. Yesterday, after 10, I got an email from the Belize Police Department. I didn't see the email until after 12, saying that the permit was denied because it's the state of emergency, and one of the conditions of the state of emergency is that you have to have reasons for the move out. And so I immediately posted that letter on Crime Thunder Review timeline. And we have been, the group of us who work together, and it's important for me to just quickly name them people, a small group of people. We have Makeda Marin, who's a youth organizer, Samia Andrin Miranda, who manages Belize Unbox on Facebook, Yasser Musa, teacher and artist, and Kitty Usher, who is a black artist, well-known artist. And Kitty, Makeda, and Tamia as youth are very knowledgeable when it comes to technology. So following for them guide, we came up with a virtual protest. Whether we had gotten the permit or not, we decided to go along with the virtual protest because it had a wider reach within Belize. So people who would have been physically couldn't come to the protest and we scheduled for this morning from 8 to 4:46 in front of the U.S. Embassy at Belmopan, but give people another option for participating in the Belize supports Black Lives Matter movement. And so they created it, and then it was shared on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then there are 3 ways to participate in the virtual protest. And the virtual protest actually has started 8 o'clock this morning to 4:46 this afternoon. And we use the hours and minutes because for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, a white police officer kneeled down for George Floyd neck and suffocated him to death. So then from 8 to 4, the 8 hours, and then the 46 minutes represent the 46 seconds. And so the ask Belizean people is very important that you use the hashtag Belize Supports BLM. With the monetary from we roll it out yesterday on Facebook, and we notice that people use it, but they don't use the hashtag. And it's absolutely important that they use the hashtag because that's how we will identify the number of people who are using or participating in the virtual protest.
All right,
So
what's the hashtag? Repeat the hashtag again.
It's hashtag Belize Supports BLM. Okay. That's the hashtag. So even if you just whatever, so the 3 ways to participate in the virtual protest is you take one picture of you and your poster will make, and then you upload it to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and you use the hashtag Belize Supports BLM. That's one way. The second way is on your Facebook page, you would use your profile picture. The one of the lead wrong one, the profile picture, that one be totally black. That's a second way to support Belize viral protests for Black Lives Matter. And the third option, Facebook, you use your cover picture that a rectangle with above your leaf circle page on Facebook. And in that one, it won't be all black, and to the right has the hashtag Belize Support BLM, the acronym for Black Lives Matter. So there are 3 ways you could participate in the Belize Black Lives Matter viral virtual protest today from 8 a.m. to 4:46 this afternoon.
But in each one of your protest note, you have to have hashtag Belize Supports BLM.
Excellent, Brother Nuri. Yes, that is absolutely important. Yes, and I have to give support to the young people, and we're more technically savvy than me and Yasser.
Indeed.
For help with the process.
All right,
I salute to all the Belizeans for help.
I'm going to ask you to repeat it again before we finish our brief conversation.
No problem, Brother.
I think what's important is, and you and I discussed this, there seemed to have been a level of reluctance on the part of some Belizeans to give any importance. Well, I think they see the importance of what happened, but whether Belize should even be involved in that conversation. Can you comment on that?
Yes, and it's understandable. And it's understandable because a lot of we learning come from the education system. So when you have one education system, structure and everything, where you receive from the colonizers, then you continue with the miseducation of we people. So for example, most of we education system is the one church state system one. So there's already a bias in the system because people have one human right if they want to accept organized religion or not. Two, it does not include in a comprehensive way Mayan and African people. The majority of Belizean people are people of color. Have we stories. So because of that miseducation, including organized religion of Christianity, I could understand why. I really can, because I never always know what I know. Yeah. And so coming from that perspective, I understand. So it's just by continuously having their conversations so people understand that racism is not only because of the whole, so people understand it. When they think of racism, they think of maybe only some white people racist, or you have one group of people with our hate group, and so that's the racism. When racism and white supremacy are one group of things. So racism, the also the interpersonal practices. So that means the behavior, your action, your interaction of how white people discriminate against people of color. Or you have, they have other definitions. So there are common definitions that people don't know about. And so I make one effort, because I don't know anything off the top of my head. So when I have conversations like I have now, I actually have to go and pull out my book to understand what power means, when people have the capacity for control circumstances. So when you talk about white supremacy as systems, because that will make me understand what are systems. That is extremely important. What are institutions? So when you start to define the meanings of words to people in our language and a way where they could understand and hopefully receive it, because it's up to the individual if they want to receive it or not, that make one difference. So when we say we need to understand systems, we talk one group or institution. An institution not just one organization. It could be one structure that oftentimes not established by the people where they use the institution. The one structure will help establish and maintain what will be the norms and the rules of society. Well, so when the institution, yes, brother.
Let me, because that I understand your answer. It's kind of complex. I am trying to be very simple. We see hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Many of them may not have much understanding of the depth of what you're saying, the racism. Mm-hmm. But they could see the human issue of a man kneeling down on the neck of another human being for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Mm-hmm. They saw that from a human level. Many of those people, a tremendous outpouring of white people around the world in European cities that came out to say this is wrong and I am against this. My question again to you, in a little bit more simple way, how is it that we did not get that amount of turnout of the disgust of seeing that optic, that image planted over and over and over and over for 12 days on our TV screen? Certainly we have the right of remote control to say too much of that. But you can't deny the fact, Yaya, that on a human level, some people keep equating it. Even if you may see one man that kneel down for one dog, you know, say, lad, man, why did they do that to that poor animal? But this was a human being, and the man who was kneeling on him had like a stoic face, like he not even concerned. So I'm asking you again, from your experience as a community activist, how is it that we didn't get a greater response from our people here, regardless to the colonial training? How is it that we didn't get a response even from just a human level?
It shows you the depth and the effectiveness of the colonial education. So we could just look on it as, because our lives matter. We know, and nobody never say our lives don't matter, but because as black people, if you're living in our skin, where somebody could look on you and say you black, especially if you identify as one male, that one different reality. So before visuals come out and camera about and they take it for their seat, black people, they've been the dead, bit is suffocate, but only the black people and where they live it know it. People of other people of other color, I mean, people that identify as people of color, people who have melanin, who have one darker hue, we know it. But people were like European people or white people, they either know it or know about it or they ignore it. So from a Belizean perspective, when you look at black people, that one, like maybe 20, if you collect, if you add up all the people who identify as black when you look funny, we call East Indian people, Garinago people, Creole people. Then we call black people, I believe. They make up maybe 20-something% of the population. But when you look on the news at night, the majority black people, black brother, the police and the patrol. When you look on who they stop and frisk, the majority, and not only that exactly the point that was systematic, is structural. When you look across the world and black people are always the ones at the bottom. How that but because of the miseducation has worked so well that people are not able to recognize it, because they never teach you, because if you don't know something, you don't know it. You can't follow it if you don't know the thing. But at some point, it's up to the individual to say, I'm willing to hear. I don't want to judge. I just want to listen and say whatever people they say, whoever they say, and then see that as something why I want a reason for, and then move forward it. But the Belize Police Department overall, how were they created? What they created for that? Never for cable people. That's not the only way for our community to be safe. That's why, like, in the United States, when they talk about they fund the police, they're like, listen, the police was never designed for ensure that you have healthy communities. That's never the purpose of police. They're always about the militarization and the policing, and from the fact that they steal, we kidnap, we from the continent of Africa, it's been about the policing of black bodies. I not change, it just might take different form, but they're always that, valuable, a human being. I could do no other group of people, police department, not treat according to treat black people. And so you have to look at Belize and say, how much black people? We know about the one that will get reported from the news. But how long police now they beat up, kick up, kill up? I'm going to show you one good example. And Belizean people can relate to this. People celebrate tablada. People think tablada means a big thing to black people. But that's not healthy policing, but we accept it as a norm. Now elevate to a point you have soldiers on the street to patrol for we people. There's a war. But when and for the people, and when imagine, make sure how good the colonization worked, but anyway, which is sad. When they go kill your people, like physically kill your son, brother, and then you say, I want less than to God. Brother, you say how good the colonization worked for people. I not say that people don't have one right to say they want, but that don't mean that you don't have one power and the one system. So you have the policing, you have the judicial system, you have the Belize Central Prison. The one group where they work together, and because the Belizean people are really free, then people got laws that say, okay, come out and protest, though. Yes, they have one bigger population, but that never stopped the people there from go. But Belizean people very clear. Listen, the COVID-19, which is real, we just had a 28th case a few days ago. Me, if we don't got no permit, me not going out there. Couple people text me and say, yeah, I don't want to come, but I don't got no bail money. Because I know if we go there, then people want to come. But I didn't listen to people. I respect people. But in having the conversation with your brother, I want to make it be very... Listen, like that, nothing else than a police officer kill a man. I believe we can relate to that. I mean, you hear about extrajudicial killing. You hear about hit lists. That real, Alison Major, one of them, like, we knew police officer shoot and kill people and no justice. When you hear a police officer seriously in no time at all, get arrested, get serious convicted, seldom it happen, brother. And this over again.
All right.
That's why we just say Black Lives Matter.
It's a significant conversation that it seems as though we don't want to have for whatever reason, but because of our limitation of time, let's go over again exactly how the 3 different forms of protest will work, and all of them must have hashtag I support
Belize support BLM. You remember that you remember that if I'm a good teacher, then you're supposed to tell me them back, but if you can't tell me them back.
Teacher. The first one is to take a, no, the second one is to take a picture. The first one, I don't have to put it in order, all right.
How you remember it?
We take it as my own photograph, and underneath the hashtag should say, hashtag Belize supports BLM. The other one is...
Okay, why you want to take one picture though? What was in the picture were important? A picture of you and what?
I should have something in the background. I thought that was a separate one. The one with some poster in the back that depicts the same concern.
It's an anti-racism poster. So one time you take one picture, you want to take one picture with you or your family, and you want to have one poster.
The poster in the back.
Right.
And it could be any anti-injustice
anti-racism, right, poster. And then you put that to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And what hashtag you use, Brother Nuri?
Hashtag Belize supports BLM.
Excellent. What are the next
options? Black Lives Matter. The other one is just a black background on your Facebook page that also has hashtag Belize supports BLM. And
that's the second one. That one would be for what you call your cover picture on Facebook. What you just described, the rectangular black with on the right hashtag, that's called your cover picture. So yes, Brother Nuri, you get two out of two. You'll be a good student.
I try, you know, I was I was not a student, but I was a little above the average.
You always are a student. You're born A. The creator make you born A. So what are the third options, Brother Nuri?
I'm A in many things, but you know. So the first one, though, I think that eludes me a little bit. That's the one that you should, your picture is not involved in that, but you have some, help me with the first one.
Okay, so on Facebook, for example, when I pull up somebody's Facebook profile or page, they have one rectangle and they have one wrong circle.
Okay.
The middle of the, by the rectangle. The rectangle is called the cover picture, and the wrong circle is called the profile picture. There's an ongoing international Black Lives Matter virtual protest of making the wrong circle black. Just the color black. So that's one option. You could go at 8 o'clock and make your profile picture one black dot. Second option is you could change the cover picture on your Facebook to make it be the one black rectangle. On the right is the hashtag, what, Brother Nuri? What are the hashtags?
Hashtag Belize supports BLM.
Excellent. And then the third option is you take one picture with you and whoever with one poster. You make the poster. Whatever you want the poster say.
Yeah.
Whatever you want the poster say. The poster have to have the theme of supporting an injustice as it relates to Black Lives Matter in Belize. Whatever you want of your creativity. You want draw, you want, take one picture, or injustice, so you may say that, whatever you want, but as long as they adhere to that theme, and then you upload it to your Facebook page, and what hashtag you use, Brother Nuri?
The hashtag is Belize supports BLM.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Matter.
Excellent, Brother Nuri.
All right, thank you, Sister Yaya.
Thanks so much, brother.
We respect the energy that you put into injustice, and it's not just this matter, but you have a history. Your resume is full of examples of your determination to bring attention. We stand on the shoulders
of our ancestors who came before us, but we have to remember that. Salute to Kamandala, because every time they come out, this is the purpose of Kamandala. And so salute to them for the voices of, people usually don't have one space for share how they feel, that's the way they are. So indeed, a manla power to the people. On a tech party that they believe Black Lives Matter virtual process. And yeah, one love every time. Thanks, Brother Nuri, for the space and time.
Take good care, sister. All right, that's for 8 hours and 46 minutes. So make an effort. It's important that we find some way of saying that Belizeans are not silent. Not everybody has Facebook, and so even if you can't do it in that form, then, you know, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he used to say that when you see a wrong, you should first try to change that wrong with what strength you have in your disposal, which is your hand. It's symbolized by action. But sometimes you're not in a position to do that. Like in this case, you may not actually have a computer. You may not have access. So well, then talk about it to other people, that you recognize that this thing is wrong. Don't countenance it by silence, but recognize it's wrong and make it a conversation even in your home, to say that I see there on TV, that we hear people talking about, that is wrong. And he said, thirdly, maybe you're not in a position to do something about it with your hand. You're not able to speak about it or write about it or put it on your internet or your Instagram or whatever other platforms there is. He said, but then the third is to hate it in your heart. When you think about it, condemn it as wrong. Don't accept it as all right. Don't accept it that that's not my business, or that the states, or the boy must deserve that, or don't do that. Hate it in your heart, because you recognize that that should not happen to anybody, whether that was a Chinese on the ground, whether it was a black man on top with his knee there, whether that was a Maya with his knee on a Garifuna, or a Garifuna with his knee on a mestizo. It is wrong, and you should hate that and not accept it as being okay and not my business. Let's take the call before we go to our time check. And we do have a guest at the top of the hour with an interesting conversation, as we normally do here on WUB. Welcome, caller. Welcome, caller.
Morning, Nuri.
Morning.
Yeah, all I have to say,
Yeah.
that you commit the crime, you spend the time. I'm not look for black, white, or who commits the crime. You commit the crime, you spend the time. And next thing, I don't think we have racism in beliefs.
Say that one again.
So, I don't think we have that in beliefs.
You don't think we got what in Belize?
Racism. Because some people say we have racism here in Belize, but I don't think we have racism here.
What do you think is racism? If I were to ask you, describe
People
racism.
against blacks. People against blacks.
White against black.
That's what they call racism.
All right.
Like what Yaya is saying, only the black man goes to prison. But they commit a crime. Nobody wants to send them there, but they put themselves there.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
In other words, what you say is that before we start to call it black and white, we should have looked on the incident and find out if the person committed the crime.
And find what's going on.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm glad you call with that opinion. What crime do you think that the man, when he dip on the ground with the policeman by his neck, what crime you think he may commit?
Well, I don't think he commit one crime.
All right. So do you believe then that...
I'm going to say, we can't compare them with us.
Okay.
They really got racism over there, and they hateful bad. I mean to say, a few incidents happen here with the police, but then that has to be adjusted. But I don't know.
I hear you, sister, and I'm glad you call. Hear why I'm glad you call. Because well, a lot of people they think just like you, but they're afraid to really be having the conversation.
Yeah.
Last night I watched the news and I hear that there's a lady who picked up the dictionary because I hear racism.
Yeah.
And he picked up the dictionary and he happened to pick up one of the dictionaries. You know, they got a lot of dictionaries. One of them is a Merriam-Webster.
Click, that means the credit done when you click here.
Huh?
When you hear my phone click, that means the credit done.
Oh, well, listen, I don't want to hold you then. Just listen to what I try to say then, right? And I appreciate your call because you have a right to disagree. We don't know one idea rules all. People got different opinion, and I have to respect your opinion even though it's different than mine, right? But listen to what I say after here. Thanks for calling. This woman picked up the Merriam-Webster dictionary. She's a student in the university somewhere in the States. And when she read what the dictionary said is the definition of racism, she said, no, I disagree with this completely. This not fully explain racism at all. So she sent one email, which shows you one individual can make a difference. She sent one email to Merriam-Webster, the company, saying a more proper definition of racism, given the reality of now that we see racism in action, should be so and so and so. And Merriam-Webster took her definition because it was so proper and so much in line, and it was so much described racism compared to the old definition that the dictionary got. And they are now going to, in their new publication of Merriam-Webster, which you could go and Google it now, their new definition is what this young lady, student, young person, mailed into them and said, this is a better definition of racism. Now, I said that to say this, that most of us describe racism as black against white. And so it make we always think that white man, you're different than we, must be racist. But racism is not just prejudice, or you could say that person prejudice. You know how they say, oh, Garifuna prejudice against Creole, or Creole prejudice against Mestizo, or Mestizo prejudice against Creole, and we call that racism. But in fact, racism more describes a system of power and the sharing of power and who got power. And so a person could not necessarily, as they're discovering in America, a lot of Caucasian people, what they call white people, and they're not white, because this is white. And I'm showing for the radio audience, I'm showing my sheet, which is white. And you could very rarely find one person with got skin like this. So they're not white people. But over the last 500 years, they have been referred to as white as a comparison to what they call black. And if you pick up black, I am a black man, but you could say that this is black and my skin is not that color. So this confusion of black-white is something created actually in Europe, and it goes even further into India in a group called the Dravidians. So do your Google research for this thing. But it became a class consideration of the lighter over the darker. And it has religious implications likewise. For example, we know from the history of Jesus of Nazareth that he was born in an area that's today called the Middle East. You don't got no white people in the Middle East. But by the time that baby Jesus was moved into the European context, he became white. Not historically white, but he became contextually right. Because Michelangelo, who is a great sculptor and great painter in Europe, on the orders of the Pope, painted Jesus in the Caucasian color. And so the Caucasian color of the Europeans was the symbol in Christianity. And even today, a black, dark-skinned Jesus historically has been transformed in religion to become a white Jesus. And that white color was used through the process of the spread of Christianity. A religion that when you study the words of Jesus is a beautiful way of life. Forgiveness, charity, love for your brother what you love for yourself is beautiful principles. But when it was used in the colonial process, it helped spread the idea that lighter, whiter was better than darker. And so the darker you got, the more you went down to the devil, and the lighter you got, the more you went up to the angels and God. And so even today, in the depth of our subconscious, there's an idea without question, without facts, that white people, again I say called white people, because they're not white, are better than black people. And that is sometimes taken for granted. And sometimes not come out till we start to get vexed. And the first thing we hear when we get vexed, that black, how you because your mommy black, your pa me black, your auntie me black, your generation me black. So how you come the black, this man call him black, or they call this lady black. So this thing about race is more than just an individual no like you. Sometimes one black man no like one next black man, or a white man no like one next white man. When you're really dealing with it, it's a system. It's a system of the what is called white over black. So now that Americans are really looking at themselves, they're realizing that, listen, I never personally and individually mistreat any person of a darker color. But I accept a system where I am given preference. So a lot of them talk about the fact that I could ride down the street, and if I see a police car behind me with one flashing light, you know, got no problem. I pull over to say, yes, good morning, officer, how are you? Whereas they say that because of repeated situations, a black person who could be at the level of a very wealthy black man, driving in a very nice car, and he see that flashing light behind him, he's concerned. Will they say that I stole this car? Will they say, what is this nigga doing in this car? This is a very expensive car. Is he a drug dealer? Why do they have to have all kind of presumptions that because of this white over black, that something may be wrong with me? All right, now when we get to Belize, we start saying, but we never got them kind of problem, man. We never got no race that Belize, man. Or you try bring the American thing down to Belize. Man, we are shoulder to shoulder, man. You know, read Emery King, man. We are brother to brother, man. And so a lot of us have drank that Kool-Aid. And we have somehow accepted. Don't you see the Battle of St. George's Key? It was shoulder to shoulder, the white man and the black man, and we worked together. Yet we didn't get adult suffrage until the 50s. And before that time, we could not vote. We were in a situation where we used to go through the back door. We couldn't walk through the front door. In fact, you had some people who were bay men, lighter skin, that wouldn't allow darker skin to walk up the front step. We had to go through the back door to be allowed to come in. So how could you say we never got no racist thinking of colorism inside of our makeup and in terms of how we relate to each other? Then we notice, and we could go on and describe to you how it manifests itself. But you know how it manifests itself with lynching? It don't manifest itself with every time our police see we want to beat we. There are certain social circumstances that, and economic and historical circumstances that have created that. Whereas in America, it was a very straight color line, a very strict demarcation between one set of people who were kept out of the process, who were lynched and created laws, Jim Crow laws. These were federal laws that prevented this group of people from participating in the system. Up until 1964, when the Civil Rights Law was signed into law by the President Lyndon Baines Johnson. And the fight of people like Reverend Martin Luther King and Reverend Abernathy and so many others who were protesting and marching peacefully to try to get those rights changed in the laws of the United States. We didn't have that. And so because we didn't have those kinds of direct confrontations, we assume, and believe me, it's not just here in Belize. When you travel through the Caribbean, as I have had the opportunity and have this discussion, you find a very similar thinking. Oh, the American thing, that one American thing you talk about, that we know got them kind of problems here. But study the history, and you will see that the level of discrimination according to color existed, according to class existed, according to where they used to tell y'all, lighten up your color, what you do the mess wrong with a black man. Lighten up your color, girl. You know, see you done black and you want to get blacker, where you want your picnic and come black. So if you think that those kinds of conversation did not take place among us, then you're really, I don't want to say naive, because that sounds like I insult you, but you don't know. And so you come to some conclusions that are not factually based. Anyway, it's 20 minutes now to 8 o'clock, and this time check is brought to you by Grace Kennedy, Belize.
From the company who brought you Buen Dia freeze-dried coffee, Grace 100% pure Colombian coffee is made in Colombia, considered among the finest coffee regions around the world. Naturally freeze-dried, Grace 100% pure Colombian coffee is exposed to less heat than other coffee brands to preserve the flavor and aroma to make the perfectly convenient cup of coffee you deserve. Have a buenos dias with Grace.
Quality nutrition from generation to generation.
Bringing good taste to life.
All right, welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. And, you know, one of the things that's also happening during this process, and you probably have noticed it, there's been an effort to correct history. I think this has not only been a Black Lives Matter issue in terms of injustice against George Floyd, but it has brought up the conversation again. We didn't suddenly discover these problems. These problems have continued to come to the surface, and then they get submerged. They come to the surface, they get submerged. I'm old enough to have lived through the 60s. And I remember in the 60s that there were confrontations because of police abuse, because of discrimination, because of the types of hostilities that black people in America were suffering. There were protests all over. Students, I was a student myself, and there were protests to try to get black studies which did not exist. You could go to a university and you would receive your bachelor's, your master's, you would go all up to a PhD and never hear anything about black contribution to anything in the world. Almost as if black people were an appendage, they're there, they don't do nothing. But the reality is, and the facts are, that black people contributed to where the world is today and made great contribution even in the United States. And so there was this call for black studies and Chicano studies, and it went on to say for Asian studies, because there was an elitism in the educational system which affected us here in Belize too. Many of us thought a black man don't do nothing. He just used to run around with bone in his nose in Africa. A good thing the white man can civilize her, because you know they do nothing except run around in the jungle of Africa. There's no truth to that. Sure, there were uncivilized people in Africa, but there's uncivilized people in Europe too. Everybody has to go through a civilization process where you come from primitive to civilized. So don't think that that did not happen in other parts of the world, and the African advanced out of that faster than the European did. And that's why you find the pyramids and all these great developments and science and medicine and all of that in Africa, if you knew African history. So students in the 60s were fighting for black studies, and there were confrontations, riots. And then when Martin Luther King was murdered, assassinated, It blew up all over the United States, similar to what we see going on today. You need to study history and see that in many ways, history is repeating itself. It's just as it repeats itself, it gets broader. As it repeats itself, it gets even broader. And what we're seeing now, especially with these gadgets, it's become global in such a way that it's not just happening in the States. I remember being here in Belize in the 60s after coming just for a visit and trying to tell people what's going on in America, and they had no idea. Why? Because if they never get it from where Voice of America may say, or if you never come across BHBS, they wouldn't know. Today, with these gadgets, you're able to know instantly when it's happening. So as the Bible says, knowledge has increased, and so has people's awareness increased. And so should people's reaction to injustice, wherever it is. If you see injustice being perpetuated by black people, I don't think that black people as human beings no perpetuate injustice. Wherever we see it, it's not a white-black thing. This is a right and wrong thing. And as I said, if it was a Maya with his neck on a Garifuna, it should be condemned. It should be protested. And that Maya should pay for his crime, just as that white man should pay for his crime for what he did to George Floyd. So we need to have the conversation, and we have to stop being afraid, man. We have to stop being afraid. Them used to make we say a lot of things about each other. When you sit down casually with Garifuna and hear one and talk about Creole, and you sit down casually with Creole and listen to one and talk about Garifuna, one and talk about or Mestizo, and when you sit with Mestizo and hear how they talk about, then conversation have to be brought to the public, into the open, so that we don't continue to perpetuate the same inner ethnic conflicts that our children are hearing from us as the adults. But if we air it and not be afraid to discuss it, look here, I got one friend now. His name is Mike Allen. Mike and I, because I lived in the United States for a period of time, knew each other from the 60s. This is 2020. And Mike Allen is still my good friend. Me not care about Mike Allen's color, and he not care about mine. Because we are locked in as heart-to-heart friends. So this is not a color thing, but it don't make me simple. Everybody, I mean, not see color, then there's no such thing as color. You're a simpleton if you say something like that. Of course there's color. And the people in charge of the power today are white people. You think the IMF is some group of Chinese? Do you think that the World Bank is some group of Africans? The World Bank is a white power. The IMF is a white power. The world is divided into the have and the have-nots, the north and the south. White is in the north, and the darker people of the world is in the south. We can't be naive and think this is the only prejudice thing. Oh, you must have to try be prejudiced against my friend over here who white. We don't care whether your friend white, blue, or green, or yellow, as they call it nowadays, or polka dot. It's about the character of your friend and whether your friend is playing into the matrix of this white above black, which is a reality. So make we start to have the conversation in an intelligent way. Make we not pass on these levels of ignorance to our children. Anyway, I started to say that all over, they are now tearing down statues. Long overdue. We have been idolizing people like Christopher Columbus, who combust us. We have been idolizing people like Rhodes. I'm a Rhodes scholar. You know who is Rhodes? You know what Rhodes dealt with? Oh, I'm King Leopold. You know who is Leopold? And here in Belize, we have a lot of people who were slave owners. You don't even know about Pickstock. You just go up on Pickstock Street. Paslow. You don't even know about Paslow. Oh, but he may got Clarice. So he can pass because he may got Clarice. He may got Clarice, but he never put Clarice on top shelf. We need to confront these things and not be afraid to have this conversation. And you education officers, you are responsible for making sure that these become conversations. And not be afraid of these conversations because they have a purgative effect on our consciousness so that we don't continue to repeat old stale things. We have to be willing to say, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with renaming pig stock. There was a man about 200 years ago who used to own slaves and used to have us on the back step and things like that. It's time to give a national Belizean that name. We don't have to worry about that. Claygarn, Vernon. It's good that we stop holding back these heroes like the Philip Golson and the George Price Highway. It's time that we look in the other heroes that we have that may not be at political level, but they may be heroes that we could rename these streets. Just like these people in Europe and America is now saying, Robert E. Lee, you're slave owner, you're not Confederate man, you may want to kill off black people, you want to keep separation. Bring down that statue there. Why continue to perpetuate that, oh, Columbus came and he discovered the new world? New? For who? New for Europeans who had never traveled into this part of the world. But what did he find here? Nobodies? And then you still call people Indian? When that was a mistake, he was looking for Indian, came in the wrong direction, and when he came over here, he said, well, I now name these people Indians, because he was given Pope, who had gotten Michelangelo to paint the Jesus white, which meant that we, the white people, are supposed to be God's gift to the earth, so we go and everything after us is uncivilized, so we have the right to name you as being discovered. You are now Indians. And every time you walk around and still they call people Indian. I don't mind if you call the East India, or I should say the India of India, India, because they are Indians who are older than Europe, by the way. They are, in fact, Indians. But then people want you to call Indian down the PG, Indian cross there. And people are Indians. It's even a question about the origin of Maya as to whether or not that was not a European given name. But I'm getting at that. You could go and research that likewise. But we have got to be able to speak our own language, think our own thoughts, come up with our own creativity so that we have children who are not enslaved mentally. We think this mental slavery thing is only for black people. A lot of white people around here that are mental slaves with wrong information, dealing with people on the basis of color. I want one black woman because they are more sexy. And you know they used to do that? Married upstairs with a white woman, but when they really want to get, they come down, they get to and look for her because she got more passion, ghetto girl. Don't you know that those things are still going on? Don't you understand that they have put frames of references in our minds, and those frames of references are still influencing us today and the way we deal with each other? Don't you know that the frame of reference of how they look at the little black boy out there have a lot to do with how we historically have assumed that they're thief? Yes, they're thief, but under circumstances that they're thief, that if one white boy the thief, you would have said the same thing about that white boy. That not because his skin a certain way, but because of historical circumstances. And that if we created structured communities the way the Mennonites do, we could go into an area and find black-skinned people as productive as the Mennonites. We answer then. Since we believe that the Mennonites are some kind of special people, they're not special people. You got thieves among them, you got liars among them, you got rapists among them, you got killers among them, you got drug dealers around them. Not to put nothing upon the Mennonite because they're not human beings. Human beings act out of the environmental forces that are in them, and God says in the scripture of both the Bible and the Quran and the Torah that He has created us with a propensity of good, but the possibilities of evil. So we are majority good. But we can be influenced by evil, which is called the devil. But the devil does not only bug or it's only Hollywood thing with Han, and the devil is in you. And if you don't learn to control and to bring your good into reality, then the devil can work inside of you. And he can become very smart. He could go to universities and get bachelors and masters and doctorates and become very sophisticated in his devilishment. He can be economic systems of inequality with his devilishment. He can justify why certain people are no good with his devilishment and why some people are superior. So we need the conversation, is really what I'm saying. We need the conversation. We need to stop hiding and acting as though we could only have these conversations, not in the media, not in the public. We gotta kind of like, we could get in here and talk black. Yeah, why the white man, you see what they do to we, but not bring that out here. Why? Who has created that culture of silence? Where it come from? Anyway, it's 5 minutes now to 8 o'clock. We'll take our first break, and when we come back, we will speak to educator Paulino, excuse me.